What's up, everyone? Carmen back with another deck tech. This time we are doing Sword Art Online. We are going back to the deck everyone loves. It has Yuki in it. It has Alice in it. It is for JP, and I'm joined today by Paru.
I'm so excited to go back to early playing Alice's.
Yeah, I love Alice. Well, we won't be early playing her, which is the main reason this deck is JP. While we pop over to the deck list, so we can look at it as we talk here, is we are playing for Alice because the ban list in JP makes sense, unlike the ban list in English, which makes no sense at all and everyone hates it. We'll touch more on that later and how you might be able to possibly play this in English. But I took this deck to the Summer Solstice event in Ohio, got top 8, unfortunately lost to Shiny Colors twice, and not because that matchup was bad for this deck. In fact, I tested into a lot, but because I had some very unfortunate low rolls at very inopportune times. But other than that, the deck really slapped it up, had a very, very good record both in testing going into the event and at the event, obviously making top 8. And I shared this with Paru pretty early on. Paru's also been playing it and also having a pretty positive experience with the list.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I've been playing this more than any other deck lately.
I think it has a lot of very interesting lines, a lot of very nice options. Having a game plan at every single level is very nice. Obviously, we're playing 3 different Climax combos, but on 2 Climaxes, and I have them highlighted here. The one's highlighted in green, combo with Mother's Rosario, and the one, obviously, Alice, highlighted in yellow. So you get to have a game plan at level 1, at level 2, and at level 3. So you get to have a real mid game, a real level 1, and a pretty honestly crazily explosive finisher. You can finish from mid level 2 fairly easily. You only really need one swing to stick, and you can put your opponent in some very nasty checkmate situations with the deck. A lot of rest of the deck is good stuff, but we want to run through sort of how things break down. As you can immediately tell, there are some non-anniversary cards in the deck and cards that have anniversary conditions. So Paru put together this very nice Venn diagram.
Yeah, let me take over here for a minute. So I think the biggest difficulty you might encounter while trying to play this deck is that not everything checks for everything else. You have the anniversary characters, which mostly only interact with the other anniversary cards, and you have the Fluctlight cards, which mostly only interact with each other. Fortunately, in that middle is cards that don't care really, and are both traits. So yeah, do you have anything else to add to that, Carmen?
The other big thing is that a lot of those Fluctlight pieces, a lot of those tech cards, and the reason why this deck becomes kind of difficult to play in English when you start making changes, even if the Alice ban was fixed, is a lot of these level 0 tech cards and are like early level 1 tech cards are Fluctlight, which means that you could pick them up off the Asuna Yuki Riki, which is a far better card than the other anniversary option, the green one, which gains that name. That card fucking sucks. So we play this card, and there's a lot of cards that we can pick up, thankfully. Alice is always good to pick up. Clean Cut's always good to pick up. And then all these other tech cards, many of which filter or exchange for other cards early, are very good to pick up as well. So that LN stuff for JP really helps bring it up. And then, of course, there's Lifa Rico, which does not grab traded, which a lot of people forget. You can pick up any character with Lifa. So But yeah, getting into the individual cards, we'll talk about the Asuna Yuki Riki. We are playing this one. The other one is not a plus. It's a filter and only for the top 2 of deck. That card's unplayable. That card sucks, so we have to play this one. It does pump another lane by soul, so you can give a character 1k without a climax down, 2k with a climax down early in the game, which is very nice. And then when it's reversed, you put the top card of your stock to clock, send this to memory, and then salvage a Fluctlight. Again, we just saw that Venn diagram, all those good cards that you can pick up on the right side of the graph there, many of which in the early game you want to grab. This does become a liability to resolve past level 0, especially if you are trying to resolve Yuki combo, because she requires 3 other anniversary on board. You can't resolve it at all at level 2 if you're resolving Alice, because that requires a full board of anniversary. So your options are to crash it on your finish return or resolve it early. We opt to resolve it early a lot of the time, especially because it has good synergy with Clean Cut, because it can buff anything. It's not limited to only buffing Fluctlight. So we run 4 of it to make sure we see it in our open.
So this Riki, I think is quite a good card. It does make you sometimes have to play or do weird things during your mulligan at 0. If you open up 5 zeros, right, usually you'd hold that. You have to try to always discard at least one Fluctlight character in your opening hand, because it does not feel very good to have this card become reversed and then clock yourself to get nothing.
Yeah, as long as you pick up a card, you're gonna be good. All the cards that you can grab are cards that you don't mind chilling in your hand at worst. But yeah, if you can mulligan one, that's for sure. Mulligan, I was gonna touch on that when we got to the end. Mulligan with this deck can be a little bit strange in general, because you're playing so many combos. combos, but we will touch on that at the end for sure. But discarding a Fluctlight is a big one of them. If you also draw this card, you can discard that and make sure you always have your hit. But yep, the clean cut, this is also a Fluctlight, as well as being anniversary. It has both. It can't side attack, it's 3k, and can only clean cut anniversary characters. I bolded and italicized that when those traits are relevant, which you can read here. But we do have a lot of back row cards, so we have a lot of targets for our clean cut, and then clean cut just holds its value very well into the game. Clean cutting anniversary characters just in general to meet your field conditions, just have extra attackers in the early game to make sure that we can greedily sculpt to make sure we hit both our Yuki turn and our Alice turn. The clean cut really helps a lot. I think this is a big thing that you miss going towards the English version of the deck, and after playing, I don't know if you played the Ricky variant of this deck, Paru, but losing the clean cut was so bad because you have to cut this card to play that. I don't think I'd ever do that. I think the clean cut's absolutely necessary.
Oh yeah, my best games are when I open the clean cut, the Ricky, and like Heathcliff or the Brainstorm.
I was gonna say my best turns at level 0 when I open the clean cut in this card, the Silica. This plus like any clean cuttable card like Brainstorm utility is absolutely crazy, because this is a buffed spawner, a power crept spawner, where as long as your back row is empty, so you can have a full front row, you can resolve the spawner effect. And this card surveils twice on play. That has a lot of really cute synergy later down the line. Helps you set up very nasty finishing lines, confirming when things might be good or bad, or just inching you through the deck to hit very specific numbers. Our ideal scenario that we'll talk about later, we want to hit a very specific number of cards on our last deck to set up our best possible finisher turn. This can help set that up. Also sets our triggers, and then if you open this plus clean cut plus a clean cuttable card, you can go +2 and attack 3 times going second without expending any stock, which is really, really crazy.
Yeah, we also play a Climax swap that digs or that draws a card on play. So this plus the Climax swap, you get 3 chances to get a Climax to your hand, and then the
which
swap
is
can just
really
fix
nice.
it if you need to.
This is like such a generalized good pickup. I wish we had space to run more because you really want to see it early, but it's a really, really powerful card. And I think the Silica in general really does get overlooked. I think this card's really, really strong. Moving on, we play the Yuki Brainstorm from Light Novel because she's green and she buffs 500 power beginning of Climax phase to any anniversary character, and she is Salvage. Salvage is superior Brainstorm. Been over this a million times. Very simple but powerful card. We only play 2 Lifa Rico, mainly because the hand to stock in this variant of the deck is not as powerful. I think a lot of people, if you're familiar with playing full power Alice as it was, especially in English, where you were seeing 3 or 4 counts of this card, that is mainly because the hand to stock in those builds, because you had very specific stock thresholds that you had to hit very early and filter into a lot of low costed cards that were 1s and 0s, and putting Alice's in your graveyard in your waiting room. So that was a bunch of things that this card did all at once, and that hand to stock being very valuable pushed this to 3 and 4 counts. And even if you were playing something like Yuna, like that, even post ban list and things like that, this card, again, that little bit of extra stock can go a really long way. In this deck, not so much, so we're going to cut it down to 2, and we also have additional graveyard filters. But obviously, unbelievably cracked card. This can filter out anything to grab anything, untraded, and then of course the extra ditch out. You can put a card into stock and then immediately pay it out and extend your plays in all sorts of wacky ways. So obviously a really crazy card. We just don't get as much value out of the hand of stock, which is why we're only playing 2. Getting into more light novel crazy cards, we obviously are going to have Heathcliff after coming off the ban list. If this boy is in memory, and he gets there by paying 1, sending himself to memory, doesn't even have to be standing, to look at top 4 and add an anniversary character. And if he's in memory, no one can use Encore at any time for any reason in any way. No hand Encore, no pay 3, no clock Encore, doesn't matter. Really gross Floodgate, especially into standby, was a big consideration with all of the shiny masks that I expected to see, because they really crutched on their like normal 2-2 game plan in the early game, having this down and like swinging over them with Alice, because they don't play a lot of backups. They play some, but they're like not power backups, or they're low power backups. You could get over those and make sure that those cards are not able to come back, which is very, very nasty. And getting it early with how much deck speed and stuff that you have is pretty easy, and it's a good stock out as well. Obviously also a great card for clean cut. We have the act support. When you act, you can give any character on your board 1,000 power, and then you can tap it to give something on reverse clock kick. In some matchups, this can be absolutely debilitating. If you squint really, really hard with the next card, you will see that this is a split 2k backup to 2 different lanes, because we also play this level 0 1,000 power counter. Combining that with the act support, if you have this on the board when you play it, you can give 1,000 power to 2 lanes, which in the meta with shiny colors puts 2 Alice Alice's over 2/2/2s, which was the entire reasoning behind that. But most importantly, this card's also a fucking helmet, which is absolutely insane in the modern game. Just being able to filter anything, and the fact that this can pick up an anniversary character, so you can filter like an Asuna that you don't need out with this, because you can ditch anything to then grab an anniversary character that you need. This also has anniversary traits, so you can clean cut it to the back, just have it chill, fulfill your board conditions for Alice or Yuki, and then sack it off on another turn. And also just being that little bit of extra backup, again, can become a split 2K with the other thing in the back. You have really good selection for your level zeros, because we play not only the Rico, we mill a lot, and we also, spoiler alert, do play Floating Castle Aincrad, so we have ways to pick up zeros very easily and mill our deck a lot. So being able to always grab this, which can then convert into a higher cost card, is very powerful. One of the Administrator, because this card is insane as well. This card just flat exchanges for a 4-card mill for a level 1 or higher, while also clocking you to the next level. We've ranted about this card before, I think, quite a lot in Alice's heyday. This one is definitely crazy, but also just a one of, just because, again, we don't need to hit that crazy deck speed timing that original Alice did. We're playing Alice at level 2, so we don't need to get all the way down to the bottom of our deck, but definitely a very, very powerful card to go even for sending itself to clock, getting you to the next level, as well as milling 4 and taking level 1 or higher, and obviously going to the event, which then mills 8 cards, which also just like flat exchanges all the way down. Here's that Climax swap that Paru mentioned earlier. 2 or more other anniversary on board, draw, drop, and then a Climax swap from Waiting Room. Very powerful consistency piece, especially when combined with the Silica, with the Surveils. Definitely really powerful piece, and a card that I would be very sorely missed if we did not have Light Novel Set. Paru, I think you're in agreement with that. This card is like a major overperformer. 2 very simple effects, but has always been a powerful filter for just recurring Climax combos.
Oh yeah, I'd play more of this if I could fit more of this in my deck.
Yeah, and I think the one real flex spot is I choose to play this Kirito. It's an on stage. You pay 1, choose one of your anniversary, rest it, and give a character on reverse salvage, which just ups your selection, but also more importantly, when you slam a Climax, can give a lane at 1K. That 1K comes up specifically in shiny colors and a couple other matchups for making sure your Alices get over, which can be very powerful, as well as just picking up cards. This can salvage anything. You have to choose a anniversary character for the effect, but you can salvage any card. There's a way to make sure that you can pick up your 1 or 2 Asuna finishers that you need, or something like Stock Swap, or any of the off trade cards that are not anniversary. But you could definitely swap this out for maybe another CX swap or something of that nature, depending on how much shiny colors you see and how much trouble you have picking up Fluctlight cards as you play.
So notably about the on-stage Kirito here, your finisher requires you, if you were to triple finisher, it would require you to discard 6 cards, in addition to playing the 3 finisher and playing the Climax. This Kirito here, if you have him on stage during that turn, it's the easiest way to guarantee that you'll have that one missing card in order to triple finisher. So it's like always just a good card to have.
Yeah, it can help you hit triple without triggering a Climax, because we want those Climaxes in our deck for the way that our finisher works. Speaking of Climaxes, first combo here is the Yuki. This is just a Magro for 5. You got to have 3 or more other anniversary on board. You got to watch that. Then she also gains 1K, so she's going to swing in at 7 with the bar and check 5, ripping us through our first deck into our second, where we will then aim play Alice. Very simple, powerful card that we get for free because we get to play Mother's Rosario, which has a bunch of support. One of the Bouncer, because bouncing the damage scry in the back row is very powerful in the shiny colors matchup, as well as just in general a very annoying card for other sets that LN Sal has access to. Just pay 1, ditch an Annie character to bounce any character on your opponent's board, and it gains 1K. So very nice functional attacker when you just need another lane and you don't need to bounce, but also having that early game bounce on a 1-0, very, very annoying.
Makes Shauna players groan.
Yeah, the fact that you can easily play this, get it back, and play it again to bounce multiple lanes, depending on your matchup, is very strong. One of this as just an auxiliary level 1. This is when you use an act. This gets on reverse blind stock. You have a bunch of ways to kick act. This can be just a free way to get a salvage with something like the Kirito, getting a blind stock, and then obviously paying a stock, going even, or can make backups free. If you use a backup on your opponent's turn, you can get over a lane and then blind stock, way to inch through your deck. Lots of very
makes
niche.
The 0 backup profitable even.
Yeah, or makes the 0 backup go plus stock. So you have a lot of ways to kick this very easily and maybe generate some extra stock. Just a nice little tech option there that is also anniversary and on color, which is important. So just giving you more options there. 3 Floating Castle Aincrad. We don't need the full 4. Again, you're not really concerned about Omega Giga deck speed because we don't have to hit a very specific Alice timing. We're not trying to early play her, but the ability for this to just like always exchange for any of our cracked overloaded level 0s that are anniversary trait, which is pretty much all of them except for 1, is really powerful, as well as just getting us through our deck and being able to pick up, you know, possibly heavy cards when we mill a lot of soul triggers. Grabbing Alice's for milling 2, pretty common. Recurring counters, all that good stuff. Just a very powerful flex card that can get us through our deck in exchange for all of our powerful tech, most of which is 1 and lower. Getting into level 2s, obviously we have Alice, full 4. Remember that she needs a full board of anniversary trait when you slam the Climax to go off, so you cannot resolve the level 0 Ricky at level 2 if you are comboing, as well as you can't have something like Berkuli on board, unfortunately, if you are playing the Alice combo. 1 anti-change counter. This is a card that I would sorely miss if I was playing English and had to play Egil, because Egil has a very expensive cost for the deck that he has played in. When you're not resolving Alice really early at level 1, where you have that extra turn of Alice combo, because you are playing it down at level 2, ditching the 2 cards is definitely preferable to paying the overall 3 and sacking a character on board. Just the fact that this can be an additional 2500 power, making sure you win a lane, as well as just threatening and change counter, gives you a very powerful mid game, especially because, you know, mill out your deck with Alice, you can just keep picking up counters from grave, keep getting stock to play them in hand. So very powerful. Berkuli, 1 of tech card, just because when we need to wait a turn, this is the best card to waffle around with, because it can make our opponent do stupid things, because they can't play like a triple finisher, they can't put a finisher in front of this. We just pay 2, ditch 2, and shoot the card across from it. It is Fluctlight and gains power for Fluctlight, so make sure you check your conditions, but this card is a great way to, for 1 stock, wait a turn if we are not in the best deck state. If our opponent is not at a good deck state to be killed and there's not much we can do about it, this is a great card to wait with. And getting into the finishers, we play a couple. So we're going to start out with the Fluctlight Asana. This one's on play heal, on attack, pay 2, ditch 2 with Mother's Rosario. And as long as you have 1 of those cards in your memory, 1 of those Rickies, you mill 11 and burn your opponent 1 for every Climax you mill. That's a lot of pings, that's a lot of damage, but even better, to back it up on the same turn, you can also play Kirisuna here. This card is anniversary, unlike the other one, so just keep that in mind when you're doing your salvaging and things of that nature. They don't have board conditions for anniversary, or Fluctlight, so you can have both of these on the board at the same time without any issue. You can do both on the same turn. But this one also heals, and on attack, you have to pay 3, ditch 2, and then it gains the ability for, if its damage is canceled, you again mill 11, but this time burn 2 for each Climax you hit. So you can use these in tandem to, in a lane that Alice wins, swing in with this one first, tell your opponent that they eat 4 or 5, and if they cancel it, you get to mill 11 and burn 2 a bunch of times, and then close out the game with your pings. Or even better, if they eat the 4, you then swing in with the Asana in the next lane, the Fluctlight one that we just looked at, mill 11 cards and ping them out from there. So whether they cancel this or whether they eat it, it's really bad for them if you follow it up with the other Asana. It's like a 2-card checkmate, and kills from 3-0 pretty much every time. It is really hard to cancel 2s and 1s, especially in the amount that this is puked out. There are ways that you can set this up with Alice, because Alice is very good at thinning your 3rd deck. When you get her down at the top of your 2nd deck, start removing cards, start thinning cards, filtering cards out. Maybe you stay at level 2, get a 2nd turn of Alice with any amount of clock at all, and 2 turns of Alice combo, maybe sometimes even 1. It's very easy to get to a 28, 27, down to a 25 card deck. With a 25-ish card deck at the start of your turn, with the bar in your hand, you can, with this and an open lane, 1 Kirisuna and 1 Asana and 1 open lane, you can checkmate your opponent with a 4, or you're gonna mill your entire deck to get 6 or 7 instances of burn, one way or another. And that's how you pretty much always close out the game from 3-0. And that is your main game plan that you are going for, is that a 2-card, 1 open lane checkmate. And you have the bouncer to get you there. You have Alice's big mid game power to help get you there. You only really need that 1 open lane. And even without it, if your opponent doesn't have defensive counters, you can still set up a pretty nasty checkmate. Helping assist that is this Mito. We don't play the Climax combo, but she's on play if you have an Asana, of which there are 2 that we just looked at that you'll have at level 3. You burn your opponent for 1. You can loop this with the helmet using your extra stock to get some extra pings out. And if your opponent's at X6 or X5 and are trying to have a big clock to go into like a third deck, be really compressed to go into your possible finisher turn. They think they're going to live. This is a great way to ping off their clock and main phase before you go for your combo to use your extra stock. And then of course, because we're SAO, we don't have to concede any tech cards. We play the Fluctlight stock swap because this card is yellow, unlike the Liz that is red. If we played more red, we would play the Liz, and if you were playing it in English, you would coincidentally probably have more red, so you could play the Liz one that is on trade for anniversary. But here, it's simpler to just play the Alice because we have to have a lot of cards in our deck pick up Fluctlight anyway, so might as well just toss this one in. She's also pretty big if you have 2 or more Fluctlight, which on your finishing turns actually isn't difficult to meet. So she's usually gonna be pretty big if you play her at level 3, as is the only way to do so in this deck. So more often than not, she's gonna be 11-5, 12-5 with Climax, and is a stock swap. Yeah. So Paru laid out a couple finishing configurations here. I don't know about you, Paru, but I'm a bottom left, top right kind of player with this deck. I think that's pretty often. Sometimes bottom right. I think those are the most common cases.
Bottom right is actually kind of insane how low stock it is.
Yeah, 7 stock to do that is pretty crazy. Again, just like machine gunning your opponent, if you have a known deck state where multiple Asuna processes your entire deck, that's when this gets really strong. And that's why Alice at 2 is still very good when you can resolve her in multiples, because she keeps your stock high. She goes even on the first turn, generates on the following turn. You can generate a very good bit of compression, and then Asuna and Asuna let you turn all that compression basically into burns and just blow your opponent up for it. And so long as your opponent is like highish 2 or 3 with like bottom left or like top right, depending on my deck state, depending on how the turn is set up, depending on if I like slam down a Silica and see a Climax first attack, because obviously that means that we can't do Kirisuna in that lane. That'll sort of like determine how I take my turn. You can pretty much always finish from high 2, 3-0. You only really need one actual attack to stick to finish in those, because you're machine gunning so many pings and so many burns because you're going to process your whole deck. If you process pretty much your whole deck, you are almost guaranteed outside of your triggers to like get your 6 or 7 burns, depending on how many Climaxes go back into your third deck.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Any other thoughts on the deck as it stands in JP before we get into English coping?
I mean, I could tell you that I wish I could play, like I could fit Chieri. There's like a whole bunch of cards I wish I could play in it, but there's nothing I'd want to remove from the deck.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make any cuts. Like, yeah, you could like cut into the level 1s and you can cut into Aincrad, but like I already messed with that. And Aincrad at less than 3 doesn't feel as impactful because I was messing around with like the early play healer. So I put that back up to 3. It's like I like tried cutting Berkuli because he's just like, you know, haha funny threat. And then like the one session I cut Berkuli, I like had 2 games where I like really wanted to wait a turn, and Berkuli would have like de-incentivized my opponent from like doing stuff, and I would have been able to even like resolve Berkuli and still kill on the backswing. So I put him back in. I like cut the on stage and then like needed a card. So just like every card I removed, I ended up just putting back in and going with the original list. This list did originate from our Lord and Savior, SAO's strongest soldier, Gara, over in Japan. This is a Gara original. Paru and I have just played it a lot. So it was definitely something that we wanted to cover.
Yeah, that list is sick.
Yeah, it definitely rewards, like if you've been playing Weiss a long time and you really like decks that are definitely like not as straightforward to pilot or have a lot of branching paths that can reward you, have a lot of different lines, because, you know, like there are decks that are very powerful that are very straightforward and only have a few lines, but are still very good. This is a deck that is very strong, that has many different lines you can take. It can be very rewarding, and it's very adaptable to different matchups. So if you expect to play into a very wide field, which is pretty common when you're playing JP in English, that was another big reason I chose to bring this to Solstice. Even with the amount of shiny colors, which is a matchup that I teched for and practiced in, I did expect to play into a lot of different matchups, which I did, and this deck is very good at adapting, because you get a normal level 0, you get a normal level 1, you get an actual mid game, and you get a good finisher, and you still have stock swap, you still have bounce, you still have like a money counter type deal, you still have all the backups, and you have your floodgate of your own in Heathcliff. So you don't really have to give anything up. The only thing you really give is the deck is a little bit more complex to pilot, but is very rewarding to play. So how would you play this in English? It'd be hard. I know the deck looks similar, but those cuts are like so impactful here. Just losing the green Brainstorm makes your green kind of sus. Not having the stock means you have to play this other Mito, which like kind of fills the role of this at level 1. The Chieri is fine. I think the Fuka Zero Mito is okay. I think think this Yuki is actually okay. I think losing the Climax swap really sucks. Losing the clean cut is really bad, having to just rely on Ricky's for your pluses. And then, of course, like we're losing like the bouncer, we lose the good backup. So we have to play this other bouncer here to have a bounce tech. It would be hard. But most importantly, the main reason that you can't play this in English.
Yeah, what's stopping me from doing this now?
Is all this fucking stupid ban list, dude. This is so dumb. This is one of the dumbest moves Bushi C's ever done. This limit 2, I can't forget if they ever like tweeted or like wrote a justification for this, but whatever they said is an outright lie. The only reason that this is a limit 2 is because they wanted to be cute and different and just have it be a like worse ban list that does nothing, because your Alice decks that aim to early play Alice are absolute dog shit unless you get really, really, really lucky and like never lose an Alice to stock, never lose an Alice to clock, which is something that happened with the Alice at 4, by the way, and would like cause you to have bad games. But now with only 2, you basically just have to be a super sack to get that stuff out at 1, and then even then for your opponent to not answer it or stuff like that because she'll be smaller if you don't win the 3rd lane, etc., etc. It makes all the decks that aim to early play Alice bad and unplayable, and it makes all of the decks that just want to play Alice at 2 also completely unplayable because you literally can't play 4 cards. So what we propose is just fixing the fucking ban list and making it the ban that you should have done the first time, which is just banning outright the 1/0 because the 1/0 is the problem card, and letting Alice herself run free so that we can play all these decks like this. There is no reason to have a further ban list on SAO in any way. Just fucking ban the 1/0, let everything else go. So you can take this, you can tweet at Bushiroad if you want. I wanted to make this a whole activist thing, if I could talk, but I don't know, they just don't listen to fucking anything. So you could try, and maybe when they update the ban list again, like in the middle of the season, with absolutely no notice, they'll fix it. But it's just a really stupid, like cute thing that they decided to do to try to be different, and there's like absolutely no point to it, and it's really fucking embarrassing and stupid, and they should just fix it so that you can actually use your SAO 10th Annie playset, because you're missing so many of these good fucking cards from Light Novel already, and then they
want Light Novel in English?
Slap you in the face, dude. Yeah, I would, because it would make you be able to play Sword Art Online, and Sword Art Online, for better or worse, is a like cornerstone of Weiss Schwarz. It's been in Weiss Schwarz from the beginning, like really, really early in English. It's been around forever, and I think it deserves to at least stick around in like playability. But right now, your 10th Annie playset is just in English is just like an absolute waste of money and absolute waste of space, because you bought it because of Alice's sins. You got a bunch of other stuff banned where like the Swordalina and stuff is restricted for no reason, because we're just trying to be cute and different instead of just doing the ban that we should. So like your 10th Annie anime playset is like completely worthless, and there's just no reason for it. It should just be ban the 1/0, let the 2/1 go, and let people actually use their playsets in English. Let them actually play the game with a deck that doesn't feel like crap, because the zeros, when you only have 10th anime, are really, really, really rough. All the good like techie zeros and like big bodies on board at level 0 are LN. If LN came to English, I would definitely snap up a playset just to have it, because there's so many SAO enjoyers unite. There are so many like decent decks and cool decks that you can sleeve up with just anime or with just anniversary if you have both sets.
Yeah, someone whose dad works at Bushiroad, reach out.
Yeah,
let's make this happen.
Reach out to them, have them fix it. They never listen to anyone who criticizes them in any way. So I don't know. We'll hit up Ken. Maybe if Ken writes an article about it, they'll do something. That seems to be the current way to get things done around here. All right, wrapping up. Paro, you got any shout outs? Anything you want to say?
You know what? Shout outs to the Weiss Schwarz Trigger League. Shout outs to Team Door. Shout
outs to Team Bar, dude. I'll see you in finals, or dude, I literally don't even know how it works.
We'll play the Salmir in the finals. It'll be sick.
I got peer pressured into doing it. They were like, Harmon, you need to do Trigger League. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'll go sign up. And then they asked me what animal I could beat in a fight. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Like maybe a goose, just because their neck is exposed. But like, I don't know. Probably anything beyond a goose. I'm not feeling very confident. Even geese goose, man, pretty scary.
I wouldn't fuck with a Canadian goose.
Trigger League should be really fun though. Upcoming content, more deck techs, more set reviews. There's a lot of stuff we got to get through. Maybe some deck techs and stuff like that for Ayakashi, although most of those have already been covered, so I might look forward into Oshinoko. Maybe some of the non 8 choice stuff. We still have to do a set review for that. So be on the lookout for that one.
Hit me up for Oshinoko.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So look out for Pario on Oshinoko. Confirmed. You heard it here first. All right, Pittsburgh White Short signing off, and we will see you all in the next one.